We drink tequila, we talk. Welcome to Team Tequila Talks.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, I'm glad you can join us. And everybody, welcome to Team Tequila Talks. Your host, Cassandra Gina Mel and Sherry Ann Gonzalez, and our special guest, Patti Murin, also known as Princess Anna from Frozen. And you may have seen her on TV. She bounces around quite a bit. Loves a good Lifetime review. You've been to some good movies, I feel like.
Yes, Hallmark. It's Hallmark. That's the
Hallmark.
more
Oh my gosh,
wholesome.
that's blasphemous.
Yeah,
It's
how
okay. Blasphemous for me to say Lifetime, but it's fun.
Lifetime is
edge. I was like, Lifetime is more documentaries, no? Are there still Lifetime movies?
No,
Lifetime is like the cheerleader killed my husband. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's the murder.
Is like Christmas on
the
dock. Yeah,
that's true.
The heavy stuff.
Yes, the murder.
We start off every Team Tequila Talks with a cheers, and we're going to get into all of the things that we are drinking today. But take your pick and open up. And we thought that it would be really fun to talk about cocktails on the go, margaritas on the go, or margarita-esque cocktails on the go, because Patti has an empty house right now. And we've all been there. And there's this really interesting vibe when you're by yourself, because I'm not a huge drinker by myself. My exception to that is sometimes being on a plane, but I also don't get a ton of alone time where I have the house to myself. So I feel like when that happens again, there's something about wanting to embrace that quiet space and also have some adult time. And I feel like the two things that are kind of adult are coffee and cocktails. So we're going to cheers to that. Cheers. Okay, so I am drinking a Margarita Spritz with elderflower and ginger by the Miami Cocktail Company. It is organic agave-based wine spirit, meaning they extract the tequila from the blue agave Weber and they make it into a softer version. So it's still a derivative of tequila. And it is paired with organic juices, organic Valencia oranges, and organic key limes, because it is Miami, which, makes sense. I guess. But 110 calories per can, no added sugar. And I have to say, upon first sip, I think I'm a fan.
Yum. That's such a cute little can, too.
Patti, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking the Cutwater Lime Tequila Margarita, which is Cutwater tequila with natural orange, lime, and triple sec flavors. It's a bold classic with real tequila. It has 2+ shots of Cutwater tequila in it. Yeah, and it's got, let's see, they say a bold tequila aroma with bright notes of lime and splash of orange in the mix. And I have to say, I taste all of that.
So you would say that's balanced.
I would say it's balanced because you get the tequila, but you also get the fruitiness, and I like it.
I think it's interesting that you can can that complexity.
Yeah, and it's also so every time I have like a cocktail in a can, I don't know if I'm expecting it to taste like something like beer, you know what I mean? Because it's just it's still like a fairly new thing to have like a super fun little cocktail in a can.
Cocktails in a can has come a long way since my college days. I will say that if you showed up with box wine or anything in a can, it was pretty much not going to be 100% agave, Blanco tequila, natural lime juice, a little bit. No. It was not going to be that. So I do think
it was like wine coolers or Zima. Remember
just
Zima?
Lots of sugar, of course. The Zima, that was my very first alcoholic drink.
Headaches.
It had an apple Jolly Rancher in the bottom of it.
But that's the thing where, when you were younger, you could bounce back a little bit more quickly. Now we don't have time for that. We got kids, and you have an empty house right now, but your kid's coming back. So,
tomorrow.
You've got to, exactly.
Dun, dun,
so
dun.
You don't have time to be hungover. Sharon, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Golden Rule. It's a margarita original made with 100% agave, Blanco tequila, natural lime juice, and triple sec. And their slogan is really cute. It says, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing," which I love. Yes.
Ooh, talking about that young recovery.
Yes, and this is 54 proof, guys. Okay?
Wow.
So I'm only going to have half of this puppy because...
So the interesting thing is I have one of those as well. Look how for reference at how small it is. It's very tiny. I mean, it's It's a very small can. It's 27% alcohol by volume, 50%
Wow.
proof. Drink chilled or on ice shake well. So this is going to be my next one, Sherry. I know you're getting into it right
Yeah.
now, but this seems like a very small cocktail, so I bet it packs a punch.
Yes. Yes, it does. Wait, what's
Yeah.
your alcohol on your cut water? Is that 5% or 8%?
12 and a half.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So mine
Oh,
is
yeah.
mine's 4.2. So mine is definitely in that Spritz family. And I'm gonna be real honest. I was gonna go, I thought I walked to a local store and I forgot that where I'm at, the liquor and beer licenses are separate. So you can't actually get tequila at the store that I went to. And it was this huge store and they had so many things. And I'm like, oh, gonna have all the options here. And I didn't have a ton because all of them were the derivatives of tequila. I'm excited also to try this Paloma Spritz. This is by the same company, but I was looking at the options, and what really caught my eye with this is that they were organic and that there's no added sugar, which is a big thing for us here at Team Tequila Talks. And that kind of brings me to my point of, we like to look at the nutritional aspects so we're not feeling crappy the next day. And so we're getting some type of benefit. And it's hard to get nutritional benefit out of things that come in a can, I'd say. But what we can look for is the no added sugar, the clean ingredients. Is it coming? What's the source of the alcohol? It's not just coming from sugar cane, it's coming from Blue Weber. And I think that the last thing that you want to do when you have an empty house as a mom is put a bunch of time and effort into making a cocktail.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So we have to look at how we can find a good option in a can or a pre-made cocktail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I do think because they have come a long way, I don't feel like if I'm home alone or with my husband and I don't feel guilty because I do hate drinking something because it is quick and fast and easy that I feel like you lose the quality. But I'm not hating on this golden rule. I actually kind of like it. It's actually very strong. Like, guys, like,
My spritz is very citrusy. It's kind of like a margarita version of, I think, like there's the big White Claw craze right now. And
yes.
I gotta say that White Claws aren't my favorite, only because their alcohol is derived from sugar and they do put citric acid in them. So you can sometimes feel a little like refluxy or bloated.
yeah.
And it's not that I won't ever have one, but it's definitely not my go-to. And that's kind of like we're going to a tailgate and I don't want to have a full-fledged beer because I don't like wasting I don't like wasting my drinking experience on something that I don't want to drink.
Oh,
So much. Oh my God. Absolutely. That's the worst is when you have a drink and you're like, I don't want to waste your drinking experience. Also, like any calorie, you know what I mean? It's like, this is not.
Oh,
it's gotta be good.
I don't drink my calories, guys. I just refuse to drink. I would rather have a nice steak with some type of nice carb and then drink if I'm gonna have anything other than that, but I don't want to waste it like on a 400 calorie drink like a lemon drop. Like
Totally.
No.
Like,
No.
yeah.
That was
I know.
for college when our metabolisms were higher and our energy levels were as well.
Yes, for sure.
And you wanted to like the cute pink thing or the thing that they were drinking on Sex in the City for
Cosmos.
That's
Oh God.
Yeah.
I drink so many Cosmos.
I know.
Oh, Patti, where are you on your tequila drinking journey? Would you consider yourself an experienced user, an aficionado, an amateur, a dabbler?
I would say I am an amateur to a dabbler. I very much enjoy tequila in cocktails, like because my husband Colin he loves to make cocktails, especially when the summer rolls around, and he can really make like the fun, like fruity, tropically kind of things. And so he whenever he makes a cocktail with tequila in it, I love it. I have to say that I have definitely learned the difference between cheap tequila and not cheap tequila, because the cheap one is the one that reminds you of college, and as soon as you smell it, you want to vomit. And so for the longest time after college, I just didn't like it because I thought that that's what it was. And then when I started, when I finally had like a really good tequila, I was like, oh, this is a game changer,
Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm much more, open to all kinds of tequila and stuff, as long as it's not going to leave me in a ditch somewhere.
I feel like Colin really knows his cocktails because I've known Colin for a while now, and he introduced me to the tequila sazerac, which was a
Oh,
new thing in that. I feel like there's rarely something in the tequila world I haven't heard of, and so that one was a new one for me. And people are getting inventive and doing fun things with tequila all the time. But
yeah.
I could thank Colin for that one. I think he knows what he's doing when it comes to the high end sippers.
Yeah. Yeah. There
Yeah,
was
Yeah.
there's a local restaurant around here that where we live in the woods. We get Mexican from, and during the pandemic, that was when everybody put cocktails on the to-go menus. And I used to get I used to get a frozen margarita delivered. It wasn't even that good. It just for some reason I just was one. It just made me so delighted to have it with my delivered quesadilla and stuff. So I did go
On your
through a period
chips
of
and
time where
salsa.
yes, it
yeah,
just like this cheesy frozen bar. It was yeah, it was good.
yeah. I will say like 80% of people who I know who hate tequila always go back to like their college days of drinking tequila. And they've just stopped. They're like, oh no, I dance on bars. I'm like, well, you were drugged because you were drinking pure like alcohol, pretty much. And so my friends were like, I've never even knew the difference between a blue weather, agave. Like you don't, in college, no one's thinking about, is this pure? Is this what? You're just trying to get like drunk pretty much. But I do think as you get older and you get like a really nice añejo and you sip it, your appreciation is different, but I think you're also ready for it. I wasn't ready. If someone would have
Mm,
handed me in college a $400 ball of tequila, I would have put some pineapple, I would have mixed that with some sugar. I would have just ruined it. So I do
yeah.
think at a time you have to be ready on your tequila journey to kind of branch out of Margaritaville. You know what I mean? Even though we love Margarita, but sometimes there's more to life than Margaritaville.
Yeah.
Well, I also think it's the same. We used to go to Starbucks as kids, as teenagers. So I love coffee. I'm gonna get a double mocha frappuccino, extra whip, chocolate syrup, whatever. It's like, wow, that thing is probably 4% coffee. And then your tastes evolve, and all of a sudden, you get a little older going through college, and you go, wow, I need less sugar, more caffeine. And you switch to like maybe a vanilla latte, and your tastes evolve. And now first of all, I don't drink Starbucks ever unless it's a dire emergency. I think they burn their coffee. I think that they are not transparent about their ingredients nutritionally. I think they put a bunch of chemicals in their stuff. So I try not to support that. I love going to a new neighborhood or traveling and finding a cool local coffee shop where they really take a lot of pride in brewing their coffee and their ingredients. And I know that my coffee journey has evolved in a similar way as my tequila. Is very different when you are,
Mm.
sneaking we covered
Mixtos.
mixto
Mixtos.
tequila. Mixto is tequila from Jose Cuervo, which is literally only 50% tequila and the other half is sugar water. They cut it down to make it mass production and accessible. And that's the kind of stuff that in college you're like, yeah, I'm not 21, but I got this tequila. You can't be picky because you can't go in and buy it anywhere, right? Sorry, mom, if you're listening to this.
Right.
But you start to have more options when you can actually take your ID and go into a
Yeah.
store and your tastes start evolving.
Right. I think the goal as you age, is to put less sugar in your diet. I think
Mm.
when you're 20, your goal is not less sugar. It's like I want it to just taste good going down. And I
Mm.
think as you age, your body's like, you're like, no, less sugar because I get a headache. Even with your coffees, it with a Starbucks run. I don't drink Starbucks. I like more artisanal. I love a cafe, with some Italian roasted beans or some Spanish or some Colombian or some African, where I feel like now less sugar is kind of like the play.
Mm.
And I think everyone can admit you feel better when you drink less alcohol because we're responsible drinkers. We're not saying drink every day. We're saying when you want to enjoy, and you're a mom and you want to enjoy a cocktail, here's an easy way. But I do think less and less is kind of more as you age, and it's really messed up because I feel like you should be able to live your life in reverse to
Mm.
understand that, to
Yeah.
understand how
Yeah.
good you had it in your 20s. You know what I mean?
Like
Oh,
these kids
yeah.
don't
Oh my goodness.
appreciate their metabolisms and their sleep ability.
Oh
God,
my
I can't
God.
wake up without having to
Yeah.
pee.
Oh
What
yeah.
about
Oh,
Patty? What's your go-to when you do get mom time? Not just in terms of a tequila drink, but like, what's your go-to self-care when you get an empty house, or even just like a quiet afternoon or something? What's your priority? What's your thing?
Well, what was it? Sunday night. So basically the last like 3 days, I have been waking up at 6 o'clock and then making myself go back to sleep because I do not have to take care of a child. And I've literally just been spending the entire, it's been beautiful here. And so I've been spending time just in the backyard in the sun reading. And then, when cocktail hour comes, I've just been having some rosé because it's like, it feels like this is like beginning of summer, and that's like when it feels really good to take your little glass of rosé out and like the sun is setting and it's getting nicer. But that's it. I haven't turned the television on once. I haven't really been looking at my phone more than I have to. I'm really just trying to like make sure I don't waste this time. And I'm trying to actively relax, which sounds totally counterintuitive, but sometimes you kind of have to force yourself to like, because I start to I'm like, okay, like I'm a little bored, and I'm like, that's okay, that's all right, that's what these 3 days are for. You get a little bored, just
Relax,
like,
God damn it! Oh, you're gonna
yeah.
relax.
Isn't that it's so crazy? It is.
It's
I do that sometimes when I meditate, and you meditate to help with stress and anxiety. But if you are anxious, you're sitting there going, just clear your head, take a breath, be present. And all you can think about are the things that you have to do when you're done meditating.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. That's why they call it a practice. And I like to think of meditating and really any energy work as going to the gym. If you have, say you want to be more toned or you want to lose 10 pounds, you can't go to the gym one time and then magically just say, oh, well, that worked. I worked out really hard. I burned 500 calories. How come my glutes aren't bigger? How come I haven't lost those 10 pounds? And it's because you're putting in the work for the results you want in the future. And I find that to very much be the case with meditating too. You can't just pull it out when you're super stressed. It is a muscle. You've got to work it. You've got to flex it. And you've got to really practice getting into that space when you're in a calm space so you can retreat back to that or pull that from your toolbox when you need it the most. And it's
right.
It's really not fair that it works that way, but it does.
Yeah. Well, I know it does, but I think as moms, 30, I read this book one time and it was saying 30 seconds of meditating is enough if that's all you have for the day. I'm a time girl, so I work out with time in mind. I'm always looking at my Apple Watch for what I have to do. I think time-based kind of thinking as moms, because we're like, oh, kids get out at 2:30. Oh, it's Tuesday, they get out a little earlier. Oh, it's 5:30, got to cook dinner. Oh, if I work out from 10 to 11, then I can go to the store afterwards. And I think, so we're always thinking kind of like in the future a little bit. Sometimes I can only meditate for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds or a minute, and then I feel like a failure. And then I'm like, well, that didn't do shit. But it did, but you just don't feel it right away. But I think in the end, it is like kind of the adaptogenic dosing. Like you got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it to see any type of result. That's kind of what we all want, is mental clarity.
Will I ever have it again?
Yeah. I think that for me, meditating is just part of my practice, even if it's just that 5 minutes at the end of a workout or a yoga, because I'm a very active meditator. So for me, that's cooking, that's exercising. I think that's a type A thing. Type A people will tend to have issues sitting still, but to each their. You gotta do what works for you. I know that I love a good bath, especially at the end of the day. I know that's so cliche, but I love a bath. I love a spa. I know that that's such a mom thing to say. And we talked about wearing bathrobes, and first of all, it is 100 degrees where I am right now. Actually, I'm sweating with the air conditioner. True story. And I really don't have a bathrobe here. I've got like 7 at my house, but I just didn't think to pack a bathrobe,
Right.
But that is, I love all the typical sleep mask, bathrobe, spa, love a massage. And I think that those are stereotypical things for moms for a reason, because they work.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it works. And also, like my chiropractor, I'm very sore all the time. And I've been working out consistently since I was like 7 years old, danced and played basketball. And I think I've never focused on recovery like I do. She told me, she said, if you focus only on your workouts and not recovery, it's almost like only focusing on what money you have coming out and not what you have coming in. And she said that to me, and I was like, well, I focus on both of those. And she's like, exactly. She's like, you have to put back in your body. So me and my husband, we are on a staycation right now, and I had to DoorDash some Epsom salt, guys. I'm at the age where I DoorDashed, okay, some margaritas, some tequilas. He was like, Epsom salt, really? I'm like, I'm so sore, my hips. And he was just like, well, sexy time and some Epsom salt. I'm like, you think it's gonna burn? You think it's gonna burn a little bit?
Did it?
I mean, where do we want to go? PG, R. What are we rating this episode?
Well, I decide that after we do the episode. We can rate it whatever the hell we want. It's our podcast.
Right. Okay, it was a little friction. It was a little burny. It was a little frictiony.
Oh.
It was a little burny.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah. Rinse off.
Noted. I think that there's also, I don't want to say a stigma, but I think one thing that we all as moms are aware of is that there's this mom judgment and mom guilt in almost every facet of being a mom. And like the interesting thing is like men don't do this, right? Like there's no such thing as dad guilt or dad shaming. People just don't do that. And we sit here and we say that and we're like, it's not fair, and yet we still participate in mom guilt and we do our best not to judge and mom shame, but it's almost impossible not to have thoughts come across your head. And all you can really do is not act on them. There's no one right way to parent a child, right? We've all got different circumstances. We've all got different experiences. For example, screen time is a big thing. And I never let our daughter do any screen time until she was, a lot older, unless we were on a plane. Because we travel so much because of work and going back and forth that I had to be able to bribe her with something to sit on a plane. And she looked forward to it. She's like, planes are awesome. I get to have snacks and watch a movie. And it was how it worked for us on a plane. But I didn't ever let her have screen time outside of a plane. And then I go to a friend's house and, there's a 2-year-old watching a movie. And like, in my head, isn't that a little young? But also, they don't have to bribe their kid to be on a plane. So I think being aware of different circumstances helps combat any of that judgment. But you can't help but notice when people do things differently and then go, well, would I do this differently? Like mom guilt is a real thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. I mean, and I think there's facets to it. And I think, I know for me, I do a lot for my daughter. I had to write it down. Like my therapist is like, you know what, you do quite a bit with your daughter. And I had to write all the things I do down. And I'm like, well, why do I feel like sometimes I'm like not killing it? Like I'm missing the mark somewhere. And she's like, because they're little narcissists. And you're trying to teach them, you're trying to teach her to be kind and caring. And it's a hard job. It's a gig. It's a gig that lasts forever. And she's like, so when she loses it on you, it's just because she's not getting her way. It's not because you're a bad mom. So in the beginning, when, the toddler stage, which we all know about, which I don't want those years back. I want them back on my life, but I don't want them back for her. It's like, but I do think giving yourself a little bit of grace. And I think, it's like the old saying, you see the dad walking his kid in the park and you're like, look at that good dad. And you see the mom doing it. You see the mom doing it. You just kind of like, yeah, well, that's
nobody notices. Yeah. That's actually what I said to Colin as he was, leaving to take Cecily with him, because they flew to St. Louis to see his parents. And I was like, oh, you're going to have a much easier time than I did. Only because people are going to bend over backwards to help you because they're going to be like, oh my God, what a wonderful father. I had a friend who told me a story about how she was on a plane with her husband and their son happened to be sleeping in her husband's lap. And the flight attendant stopped and was like, oh, you are such a great dad. Your kid is so lucky to have you. And my friend was like, what about me? What about me? Like, what about me?
And it's like right here.
I flew from Australia to New York with her by myself, which is still going down in history as one of the best things I think I've ever done. And people were so wonderful and so kind and but you're a hot man with a cute baby.
It's an aphrodisiac. It's an aphrodisiac to people.
Yeah. So
just to my point of the mom judgment, I, have flown with a baby and someone that like literally the flight attendants will walk up and down and offer people a cocktail or Prosecco. And then they come to you and they're like, can I get you some water? And it's like, wait a minute.
You're like, no, I'm the one that needs a Prosecco.
Exactly. And so like, listen, I'm not going to get hammered while I'm holding my kid. But at the same time, I'm just talking about the apparent judgment and switch in in mannerism and going from, oh, do you need some water? Or it's almost like this.
Yeah.
And I know that most people are probably trying to be helpful, but at the same time, it's just really interesting to see the switch in how people interact with you when you are a parent and when you have a kid.
I have a question. Do you think women, this is to both of you, I have my thoughts on this, but I'm always curious about what other moms think about this. Do you think women judge, we know women judge women harder than men will ever judge a woman in terms of like, you can have on a Kmart sandal, and if you're fine enough, a man's like, I like you. They're not judging you by your Kmart sandals. But do you think moms in general judge each other so harshly sometimes that you feel like I've liked other moms before and then hung out with them on a play date and been like, oh my God, I can't do this again. I brought cucumber slices and apples to the park and his mom bought some M&Ms. Totally get it. I just did it. And she was like, my son will never eat that crap. Like he would think that's crap. And I was like, well, I don't teach my daughter about crappy foods that are healthy. Like I kind of take the approach green is fun. These are green. These are natural. And I do think sometimes I found a lot of moms will judge other moms harshly to the point where you feel like, are you team woman or what's going on here?
I think that because I became a mom when I was almost 40 and all of my friends already had kids, multiple kids and stuff. And so I already had a lot of mom friends. And so after Cecily was born, I actually actively stayed away from meeting new moms and stuff because I was in one way already fulfilled in that area, but also because I sort of knew that is a possibility, and, I'm very empathetic. And so I sort of just assume everyone's doing their best at all times. And I'm also like terrified of the day that someone is finally going to some other kid is going to make my daughter cry because it hasn't happened yet. And I know it's going to, and I know I'm going to fall to pieces. I want to say that I've maybe been scared to actually even make new mom friends for that reason. We don't know how to do this. We could read all the books in the entire world. And it's every kid is different and every mom feels inadequate, especially when you're next to another mom sometimes where you're like, oh, she looks really good today. And I'm
well, I mean, it's what works for you. Maybe you don't need mom friends. Maybe you are fulfilled in your social circle in other ways. I think that, one thing that's helpful for me, and again, this is just a type A tool, is I like to, in any instance, focus on things that I can control. So if something's making me uncomfortable, I like to focus on what I can control. And one instance of that is, for example, if we have some type of play date or hang out at our house, I just kind of say, well, here are the rules in our house. Our house are rules. And I didn't know before I had a kid, I would have, kids would be over the around, or kids, we'd have some type of barbecue and someone would bring their kids and they'd, kick a soccer ball at the TV or something, just like something that you're like, and the parents don't say anything and you're like, oh, how could they not? And I just always thought you just had to sit there and that you could never say anything. And then it was a friend of mine, actually, a friend of mine that doesn't have kids, that goes, no, my house, my rules. And I go, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
So much sense.
It's like you can do what you want with your parents in your house or at your house, but in my house, here are the rules. In my house, we don't have Cheez-Its. In my house, this is what we have for a snack, and you don't have to eat it, but this is your option, And I also think that works even with my own parenting philosophy, saying in our house, here's how we do things. And other people might not have the same rules, but here are my expectations of you when you are in this family and participating in this household.
That's so smart. That's also a really good life lesson to, you know what I mean? Because it's like when you go to somebody else's house, for the most part, most of us don't roll in the door and start acting like it's our house, And so that's a really great thing to impress upon kids from day one. Wow, I'm going to use that. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that's great.
It's even when you walk into someone's house and you go, do we take shoes off or are we good with shoes here? Yeah. How about socks? You ask people what their rules are. This is your home. It's directly tied to who you are as a person. We cultivate our environment or lack thereof. And I think it's a direct representation of our personality and even spirituality, saying here's what I need to be in my safe space. So to have someone come in and violate that even inadvertently is you setting boundaries, right? And I think that that's really important when you're talking about your home.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It's
it's a
your
good thing for
space.
your
Yeah. It's
kids.
your sanctuary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good things for your kids to learn. I think, a big deal for us with our daughter is boundaries. She definitely sometimes comes in hot, and sometimes other kids aren't ready for her. She's a little spicy. So, and I teach her that, and she's like, but but it had the best intentions, right? And people think that when they have good intentions, that excuses, but it actually sometimes doesn't. Even
Right.
though you were coming from a good place, they don't know you. They just met you 5 minutes ago. How on earth would they? So it's my daughter's almost 9. She's having these girlfriend group problems where it's so interesting to watch the littles, because honestly, I mean, I didn't tell her this, but I'm like, you're gonna be dealing with this forever.
Tell
We
our
all
daughter
have girls,
too.
don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. And I tell our daughter, I can't ever remove you from an environment. You got to learn how to speak up for yourself, because this is going to happen for the rest of your life. And I can't just call the teacher or pull you out of camp or whatever, or, move you classrooms, because there's always going to be conflict somewhere. So you got to learn how to deal with that conflict.
Yeah.
I am moving on to the golden rule, Sherry.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah. And let's see which one. I mean, I'm going to see what comes out on top here. And just to touch back on the cans, because I would love to continue this conversation, but we are all looking at simple ingredient cocktails, right? This one only has 4 ingredients. The other one I just had only had 4 ingredients. The other one was even organic and no added sugar. This one does not have added sugar either. I think that another thing that you also want to avoid is any dyes. You don't want to pick up anything that's neon, because anything that has that type of coloring, whether it is artificial or even if it's natural, like you at least got to check the ingredients, because those artificial colorings and preservatives and, taste enhancing chemicals are recipe for a disaster and a hangover. So I think what it really comes down to with canned tips, and we're going to talk about our favorites at the end here, but is just a reminder to look at the ingredients. As anything, we always say, look at the ingredients of your food, look at the ingredients of your drinks, your cocktail, and just be aware of what you're putting in your body.
Yes, I just opened this started coughing because this is really spicy.
Woo!
What
is it?
It's the ranch water spicy hard seltzer, 100% agave, natural lime juice, and jalapeno flavors. But boy, oh boy, it is spicy. So I'm like, put some hair on my chest. Oh my goodness. It's 80 calories, but it's very yummy. If you like spice, this is not for the baby. This is not for the beginning people on the spice journey. This is if you're advanced on the spice level. But man,
all right.
Patty, what are you moving on to?
I don't know. I can't decide, because I also have a spicy mango margarita from Faux Pas, which I'm kind of interested to crack open. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah,
do that.
The mango,
spicy
the
mango.
The mango should help offset some of the spice.
Oh, it smells good. It smells like mango.
Initial thoughts. Is that a good face or a bad face?
Layered. It's layered. It's interesting because it's like the spice isn't necessarily a feeling of spicy. It's more like a taste of. Does that make sense? Like a taste of spicy.
Yeah.
So it's like nothing about it in my mouth is not like, and I'm pretty sensitive to spice, and but it's almost like that. It just sort of has the essence of spice. So it's actually really refreshing.
The afterthought of spice?
Yeah, kind of.
Is it kind of the tail end? Interesting.
No, it's on the front end.
Oh,
interesting. Interesting.
Forethought of spice.
It is. It's like it's a forward spice. It has complex elements of fresh mango with hints of peach. I get that, and just the right kick of responding to everyone's IG story as if it were personally directed at you.
Wow!
Cheers, Thatcher.
Coffee on that one.
Yeah.
So clever.
So, we talked about using environments that you can control, but what about the ones that you can't? I have to say that one of my pet peeves is when you go to a restaurant and there's a kid sitting at the table with an iPad. I'm not done. Hold on. This isn't just about screen time. They don't have headphones. And kid TV and kid cartoons, it's like, like it's all of these weird sound effects, and it's actually, as an adult, pretty annoying to listen to. But you're sitting there and you're at a nice restaurant and you're trying to enjoy your dinner, and the parents have checked out and their kid is on an iPad. And I guess I have never said anything because I don't want to judge. We personally do not allow screen time at the dinner table. Our daughter's a little bit older now. She's allowed to have screen time, but just if you're going to sit at the dinner table, we're talking about our house, our rules, our family, our rules. We say if you're going to sit at the dinner table with us, you have to participate in the conversation. You can watch your iPad before or after, or do your games before or after, but this is when we're going to engage and enjoy our meal and make the food an experience and dinner an experience. So again, to each their own. But now we're talking about how your parenting decisions are being disruptive of a shared environment. So is it ever appropriate to say anything? Do you just have to deal with it? Do you got to move? I mean, it's a pet peeve of mine. I haven't acted upon it, but I can't be the only person that feels this way.
Yeah, I think, I never want to get involved with how someone else parents their kids. I'm always, that's a sketchy road.
Me neither.
Yeah. But if you are in a nice restaurant and you're on a date night with your husband and you're hearing Scooby-Doo sounds and it's very loud, I do think there is a way to maybe tell management to be like, excuse me, I'm trying to enjoy my meal. Instead of turning, I think parents automatically get defensive. It's just, I've seen it.
100%. That's why I've never said anything.
Yeah.
Because you don't know why they're on the iPad in the first place. Maybe they get their iPad every meal, but maybe they're on vacation and they have different rules on vacation. Or maybe the kid had a total meltdown earlier and they said, all right, fine, you can have your iPad at dinner if you knock this off. And that was like, that was a deal that was made. But I also think it's not even just date night, because if you're sitting there with your own kid, it is just tough to look over, and not everybody's going to do things the same way. But having that type of disruption is almost teaching your kid that it's cool to just not be aware of your surroundings, not be aware of how your actions are affecting other people, not teaching consideration, or at least thought,
Right.
And
well, I always point things out that I see Skylar looking at, and I'm like, oh, what are you looking at? And she's like, that kid just slapped his mom across the face. I'm like, how do you feel about that? I'm like, do you think that's an appropriate action? So I kind of will pick her brain sometimes to be, she's like, why is that kid at his iPad table? I'm like, well, I'm not his mother, and me and daddy aren't his daddy, and they have different rules. So I do find anything can be a teaching moment. But for me, I would probably tell a manager. What do you think, Patty, if you were at a restaurant?
I think that would probably be maybe you know what I would do? Do you know what I would actually do? I would sit there and stew and not do anything. But I'd bitch about it later. That's exactly what I would do, which is not what you should do. That's the thing, because I'm like, okay, if it's going to bother me, either I have to decide that it's not going to bother me and let it go, or I have to do something about it. This is a recurring theme in my life of like being like, oh my God, like, and then just not doing anything. So I think that the management thing is a good idea. Also, maybe even just being like, is there another table that we can go sit at? Because then it takes care of my problem without making it. I have this new theory, that I'm really trying to test out, where I'm like, is this a me problem or is it a you problem?
Yeah,
and most of the time.
That.
Most of the time, the answer is this is a you problem. So it kind of like, you're like, oh, okay, all right. It like instantly releases a lot of stress, at least unnecessary stress, and sort of like gets it all down to the like idea of like, why is this bothering me? What is that, And that is like, that, because the thing is, when Cecily's in a restaurant, she's not even 2 yet, but we'll pull out our phone, and if she's like really going nuts, but she's too interested in what's around her to sit and look at and watch TV at this point, like at this age. Right. So it doesn't even really work. But if it does, I'm just like, sound like all the way down, because I am hyper conscious, and that also probably comes with like caring way too much about what other people think of me. But but like that's I feel like that's like, that is how I would probably handle it, is if it really, I would, at this point, I'd be like, okay, what is it? All right, is this really bothering me? then let me take a course of action, whatever that action is going to be. And
Let
for me,
me
it would
move
probably be
tables, or
see if I
let's
can move
wrap it up and
tables.
get the check, go
Yeah.
get dessert somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Right.
Yes.
I think that if,
Yep.
I mean, I guess for me, I think if you knew you were going to pack the iPad, right, and this is a regular thing for you, then how could you not pack headphones? And what are you teaching your child to? I agree, the sound should either be off. Yeah,
They
and if
become
it just
the adult on the airplane that listens to their movies out loud.
yeah,
Like that's who they become.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I was going to say,
Exactly.
they end up being adults who are just the most inconsiderate people you've ever met. And you're always like,
Yeah.
so me and my sister, we always say, who raised you? Like when we
Yeah.
have an issue, we don't say it to the person, but we always like silently will be like, who raised you? Like, why are you
Yeah.
acting like that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, because it is a
Right.
reflection. Unfortunately, as a
Mhm.
child, how your child is acting as a child,
Mhm.
unfortunately, is a reflection of parenting. And I had a really hard time because in the toddler years, when she's just bamming her head on the floor in Target, I'm just like, no, that's a you. This has nothing to do with me. Like,
That's a
I
you
told you
problem,
no.
not a me problem. Yeah.
That's a you. Is this a me problem? This is a you problem. Yes.
This is, yeah,
I'm like,
there
how
you go.
long
There's
can
your
it?
theory. At
Right.
work,
There it
And
is.
I'm
baby.
like,
There's your theory.
yes. I was like Googling in Target, how many times can a kid bam their head on the floor before they're concussed? Because I was like,
What's the
Yeah.
what am I
answer?
supposed to do? Well, it
For
was like,
future
it depends on
reference.
how hard the surface was, the angle.
Just like
Check for
the things
swelling.
like, oh God, the things we Google. Just like add that to the list of insane things that moms Google.
Oh man, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, to kind of put a button on this conversation, a bow, a button. How do I always mess these up, Sherry? I'm really bad at
It's a
cliche
button.
sayings.
Put a button.
I know it's a
Button.
button.
It's a
No, it's,
button.
yeah,
It's
a
a
button, a
button.
pin, or whatever.
The overall thing that we can agree on is let's not judge other people's circumstances, but also can we, because we're all just doing our best. But on that note, can we also do our best to be considerate and aware that other moms are probably not doing things exactly the same, and to just leave a little bit of grace for other parents in other situations? Because you really just have no idea what they're going through or what brought them to that point that they maybe created
Mm.
an unorthodox rule or an unorthodox lack thereof rules in certain situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. I agree.
Yeah.
We're all just doing our best.
Yes.
Some of
Okay,
us.
Yep.
so we only
Most of
kind
us are doing
really
our
got
best.
through.
Two.
Well, we're trying. We're trying. We got through 2 canned margaritas. And what was your favorite? What's your winner? Thoughts? Closing canned thoughts.
I will say that these are what I called elevated canned margarita drinks, and I like them. I would serve them if girlfriends were coming over last minute. I would have these in an outdoor refrigerator in a garage somewhere where I can go and grab. I do think they're yummy, tasty, guilt-free, and like all around balanced. I mean, this spicy one that I had, I mean, maybe not if you're not into spicy, but pretty much they work. They hit the spot.
Patti, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that they're just like a really great alternative to like the hard seltzer craze that is like taking over the world. You know what I mean? Like it's like I think it's a little bit more of a like a uh like slightly elevated, like you said, level of being like, this is a cocktail in a can, but it's very good. I really like the cut water. I have 2 other flavors here that I'm probably going to try at some point later. I was actually just thinking about how I wanted like a new summer drink, instead of just the rosé and pouring out the wine and stuff. And these are, I think, going to be a really big contender. This one is interesting. The spicy mango margarita is might be for specific palates, but I think that the tequila, the cut water is like pretty great.
So I cheated a little bit with this golden rule and I poured it in a pretty glass, but that's only because it said shake well and pour over ice. So it came in a can, but I don't think that I would want to drink this directly out of a can because I think it needs the ice, and it's very concentrated. So I think it needs even the ice to melt into it as you drink, kind of like, when you're drinking an old fashioned or a whiskey or whatever. So I would drink this again. This seems like a very good airplane. Airplane should have this. So they're not just passing out Cuervo mini bottles.
yeah.
I feel like airplanes should have this. But I have to say that I
totally.
really
that's smart.
loved the Miami cocktail. So I am going to become a cheerleader for this company because I love that it's organic. I love that it's no sugar added. It was super light. I feel like if I drank 3 of these, I could be, this one's heavy. This one's dense. This is a boozy cocktail, whereas this one is still blue agave based. And I feel like I could probably casually out in the backyard watching the sunset. It's a great summer cocktail, just like you were saying with the rosé. I feel like I could probably have 2 of these and just socially have 2 of these and enjoy my evening, as opposed to like, oh, we're drinking tonight, which is this little tiny guy right
That guy.
Well,
he looks so harmless.
It's good.
He looks so
But it
cute
looks so
and like
harmless.
adorable. But
See, so adorable. He packs a punch. He's not playing around.
it is.
It is good though. I would drink it again, but it doesn't take up much space. So there's nothing wrong with having these in the back of your bar.
I like the
I
airplane
agree.
idea. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this seems like a good idea. Is it 3 ounces? Can we bring it in a carry-on? It is 100 milliliters. You could bring this in your carry-on.
You could.
You're not technically supposed to drink your own alcohol on the plane, and I'm not encouraging anyone to break rules. As I love to say, never take our legal advice. However, if we're gonna do it, I feel
It would
like
be a good contender.
decent option. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Well, everybody, take care of yourselves with your self-care, whatever that may be. Go find yourself a nice canned emergency margarita for when you get an empty house. Patti Murin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having
seeing your
me.
face, even on a
Thank
screen.
you.
And everybody, you know what to do. You got to do the click and the like and the subscribe and the listen and the download and all of the things. And you all know how to do that because it's 2022. Team Tequila Talks. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.